So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Irving Arts Center's Lunch and Learn. My name is Marcy Inman. I'm Director of Exhibitions and Educational Programs here at Irving Arts Center. For those first-time attendees, a very special welcome to you. Lunch and Learn is an informal art education program for adults that provides fun and informative enrichment opportunities, as well as a lively discussion forum for exploring current exhibitions at IAC and other art-related topics. We meet monthly, October through May, and normally it's the first Tuesday of every month, but this edition of Lunch and Learn is a very special one, so that we were able to get Mr. Arthur Primas here to talk about the exhibition while it's still up, because it's only up through this weekend. And having said his name, our special guest speaker today is art collector, Mr. Arthur Primas. Yes.
Thank you.
50 works from Mr. Primas's extensive collection are currently featured in the exhibition Artistry Abounds, selections from the Arthur Primas Collection, here at the Arts Center through March 1st, presented in collaboration with Irving Black Arts Council. Arthur Primas has been collecting art since the mid-1990s and has amassed one of the most important collections of African American art in the United States. The exhibition at the Irving Arts Center features art spanning 200 years and explores themes of freedom, identity, and cultural expression with artwork by luminaries such as Aaron Douglas, Romare Bearden, John Biggers, Elizabeth Catlett, Robert Colescott, Jacob Lawrence, Charles White, and many others. We are recording today's presentation, and Mr. Primas's talk will be available to view on the Irving Arts Center's YouTube channel in the next 2 to 3 weeks. As always, there is time allotted for Q&A after his talk. Please raise your hand to speak, and a microphone, this little guy, will be passed to you. The microphone is necessary so we can capture the audio of all your comments and questions on the recording. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a very warm welcome for Mr. Arthur Primas.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. And I've thought about this ever since Marcy called me and invited me. So what I decided I'm going to talk about, because I can only talk about what I have, I'm going to talk about what makes me collect and why I collect it. And then I will try to explain or narrate some of the pieces. So my experience in art is I had an interesting job that allowed me to travel. So when I was traveling, I went to a lot of galleries, a lot of museums. So I've seen quite a few museums, and things caught my attention because I had a little art, but I started collecting about 1995. And one of the first pieces of art that I saw that caught my attention was in New York in a restaurant called the Shark Bar. And it always had a piece of art up that they was trying to sell. They decorated their walls from artists that was trying to sell some of their art. So I saw a piece by Curtis James. Now, if you walk through the exhibit, you'll see my mind was all over the place. And what I really recommend, if you're interested in art, it'll take you on a journey that will really be great, because each region of the country has a style of its own, a way of communicating with the public, and it has its favorite artists. Most of the artists that are in the major museums, naturally, they are nationally known, and some of them are worldwide, or they have become worldwide. So let me start, I guess 1994, 95, I saw a piece because what the artist has to do, he has to grab your attention. And once he pulls you in, he'll walk you through the piece. So I saw this particular piece. It was more of a southern scene, and it reminded me of my father. So I saw that piece, and I started collecting Curtis James. And from Curtis James, I went by his studio. I used to go through the galleries and everything in the museums during the day. And if possible, if I could meet the artists, I was in their houses 12 o'clock, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's where you get the interesting backstories. You can see a painting on the wall, and I'm not so sure if you can interpret it or you really get the meaning. But once you meet that artist and once he starts explaining what he's talking about, what he's trying to paint, and I fell in love with the storytellers. Artists are storytellers. Sometimes they'll tell you, they'll narrate a complete series. Sometimes they'll just pull you into one particular painting, and from there, I did my research, and it took me to, let's say, there's a Charles White painting or picture of Abraham Lincoln. So in looking at that and researching the history, we all know the initial history on Abraham Lincoln, but when you get into the research, you learn even more. From Abraham Lincoln, I got into the war scene, and you move all around the war scene. Then I got into the social part of it. From Curtis, he introduced me to Toffa. Toffa's a local artist in New York, and he's nationally known. And we'll get into it after I'll show you some. I've got a couple of pieces out there. It's the pieces in the exhibit is terrorists and freedom fighters. And what it says is they've got a list of names, and depending on which side of the political football you're on, that name might represent terrorists or it might represent a freedom fighter. So you go from there, I went from there to, there are some non-political people, like Ed Clark. You get into Ed Clark's narrative. And then you go from there to Mayhew. You go from there to Jacob Lawrence. And when I go in, I wasn't smart enough to figure it out in the beginning, so I'd go to a museum once, and I'd make the sort of a quick walk through it. And then I'd have to go back a second and third time before I really learned to appreciate the piece. It's always something about a piece that drew me in, it pulled me in, then it walked me around the canvas and told the story. So Charles White, Curtis James introduced me to Toffa, and there was a local gallery here that introduced me to Charles White, and from there I called his curator, the gallery that represented him in Los Angeles, and I met Charlotte Sherman. From there, Charles White also had another painting out, and I met Jemani Nnamdi out of Detroit, Chicago. He had 3 galleries at that time, one in Detroit, one in Chicago, and one in New York. And from there, I learned the importance of curators. Curators will introduce you to a lot of different artists, and a lot of times they have access to those artists, and you'll get an opportunity to talk to them. Jemani connected me with Elizabeth Catlett, had a conversation with Elizabeth Catlett. And because I traveled, I was in the state of Washington, Seattle. And I looked at the good old AT&T telephone book, and I found Jacob Lawrence's name. I said, well, hell, I'll just call it. I called it. He answered the phone and invited me out. Because, yeah, I'm working now. If you want to, come on out and take a look. So it's a very interesting world out here. But to talk a little bit more about why I collect, I love the story. I like the storytelling part of an art. You see the print series by Jacob Lawrence, the Genesis series. It's 8 drawings, a series of 8 prints. It's about the Lord building the world, things of that nature. And then I saw Charles White. He talked about, and this is from the Johnson Publishing Company. They did a book, The Shaping of Black America. So once I got into the shaping of Black America, it started, and though it covered heavily from the Clinton era, all the way up through Obama, and they did the book in '79, so the first edition. So it gives you a good political history, and then you learn the artists. As you go through, if you see different artists, some of them known, some of them unknown, for some reason, the great artists sort of migrated to the top. But they're all telling a story, and it's for us to be able to listen. A singer will sing things that are important to him. A politician will speak. An artist will paint what he's seen. And you go back into the 1700s, they didn't have cameras, so they painted. And they were allowed to paint a message that might not have been favorable at the time, but for some reason, debate has always been welcome in museums and galleries. We've got into some interesting conversations in different galleries and different museums. Some people that might have been on a different political side, I didn't see landscapes like I did until I saw Robert Scott, I saw Duncanson, The Land of the Lotus Eaters. Very interesting piece. So as you are searching the internet, we all have the internet, you look up the Duncanson, they're introduced to you and you'll see what's important to you. Something will catch your attention. I'm gonna pause now in case somebody might have a question or two, because I can talk to you about this for quite a while, but I would like to answer the questions you might have of me since you had an opportunity to see the collection.
Mr. Primas, are you ready for the flash
Yes,
drive?
you can.
Want to pull up some images? Okay.
Yeah. Now you're gonna have to manipulate that for me.
Okay, you want to see?
All right,
Yeah, you can sit out there.
all right. Pull up the first one.
Okay. You want to pull up the Charles White series? About right here. This is Abe Lincoln, what you were talking about.
This is the Abe Lincoln. And what caught me about Abe Lincoln, I think, is it in the show?
No.
Is it?
It's not? No, okay.
It's not in the show?
No, because it just got back.
That's right,
Yeah, it just
okay.
got back.
All right. Wish I'd have brought it with it. But anyway, the Abe Lincoln, what caught me was his eyes. When I was standing in front of it, he was like he was looking at me, and I'm visualizing in my brain the story about Abe Lincoln. As I walked to the left and right, the eyes followed me. And it was amazing how Charles White could do that. But I don't have it. And then what's next, Virginia?
It's 12 series.
Okay, the other series I talked about, The Shaping of Black America. Like I was unaware of this until I actually saw the series. When they first came to the United States, it wasn't the United States, but the United States now, the first, one of the slaves was a white lady. And I had never known that. So what art has taught me, it has taught me a history. It's a history lesson. And depending on what you're interested in, it'll lead you around everything in the United States and all across the world. I had an opportunity to go to the Prada Museum in Madrid. And if you ever go there, or you can look it up, the Black series. And then you get to wondering about people and their positions in this world. I think one of the most amazing paintings I've seen is the 3rd of May. When you get can you look that when you get a chance, go home and look up the 3rd of May. It's the Spanish Inquisition. And it talks about how the people were fighting for their freedom and democracy.
This is just
So just go through it. She's going to take you through it. But as you see each one, take about a 5-second pause, you read the narrative and you read the book. There's a book here about the shaping of Black America. It's a good read. Laron Bennett, he was I think he was publisher for the Johnson Publishing Company. He wrote the book. Charles White did all the examples. And keep going.
That's the Black worker.
He showed pictures of the different leaders during our time. So art has served as a history lesson for me. Go ahead.
Get the microphone. Are these originals or are these etchings?
Those are all,
Just reproduction.
those are originals.
Those are what?
They're originals.
They're originals?
Yes,
Okay.
they are.
Have you heard of
Sir?
have you heard, gee, I'm on the mic. Have you heard of a artist named Aboud, A-B-O-U-D?
I don't.
Okay.
Don't know.
Anyway, I have one of their, I think it's a her. I think I have one of her
No,
graphics.
I don't know. Go ahead, sir.
There we go.
Mr. Primas, could I get you to go back to your visit to the Spanish Museum and you saw African pictures or paintings? And does this go back to the Moors or just what?
It does. While I was there, I saw the Goya series, the Black series, but they had an exhibition in the main gallery. They had 90 paintings by Goya, and it took you to the Moors and everything. At that same time, I went over to the presidential palace, and it had all the cartoons that they did the weavings off of. So it's just a world and art out there that after you're exposed to it, it'll keep you going. It'll keep you on the internet, keep reading and reading. Like I say, it's a history lesson in itself.
Okay, my question is, have you heard of the local artist named Evita Tizano?
Yes, I have.
So
I was looking
she's-
at their work a couple of days ago.
She's here locally, and you could, I've got her phone number if you want it, but she has, just in this last year, she's been given the Guggenheim. Her artwork is sold through a gallery in California, but she has followers. Denzel Washington has 6 of hers.
Is that
and
right?
Samuel Jackson, and she tells a story of her past. She was originally from Port Arthur, but
Yes,
and
I would
her
love
gallery-
her contact
her
information.
gallery is in Richardson, and she is phenomenal.
Okay,
You might wanna
I
see
will
it.
let me have that contact information.
is
I'll
a-
probably go, because I love to go to the galleries and the studios to get their backstory,
Right.
because
She's
it
a
makes
black
the pieces
artist
of art
that
more
really
important.
Thank you. I was just curious, the series of paintings that you've been showing just now, they all have a similar style. Are they all from the same artist?
Yes, Charles White.
Charles White.
Yeah, he did the 12 exhibits in the book.
And what's the medium in this case?
It's oil.
Sorry?
It's oil.
It's oil.
Yeah,
okay.
and after you read his story, you'll find out. And he did that later in life. He couldn't.
Yeah.
He did more drawings than he did oil because he was allergic to oil. He had a lung disease, and he should not have been painting in art, in oil.
Thank you.
No, died in '79.
If I may, I'd like to go back to the comment this lady made about Evita Tizano. I am pleased to say, and if Marcy is still in here, we have had, the Irving Black Arts Council has had the works of Evita Tizano at least twice. We know her well.
Okay.
She is a talent.
All right.
You would enjoy her studio for sure.
Okay. I'll put that on my list. She's local too. Yeah, local makes it even easier. Go ahead to somebody else.
Mr. Primas,
Upside down, Jesus.
I have a question for you.
Yes,
Do you know an artist by the name of Tom Feelings?
I don't.
He's illustrated a book called The Middle Passage in, I guess, charcoals. Phenomenal work. You might want to check him
I
out.
will.
Tom Feelings.
And see, when you bring up a subject like that, then I think of Pendale. She has, I have a painting by her talking about the Middle Passage. It's not up in here. Do we have a pen? We don't have a Pendale.
Howardina?
Howardina, yes. Yeah. So I'm going to show you a couple of Toffas. Now, this is a painting that really drew the ire of the New York Times. Tafa is real controversial, but he's a great artist. He has great subject matter. You'll see one of his paintings, and he touches on all fields. Like that's Muhammad Ali in the exhibit here is a Tafa painting, and it's a good one. But here, and I remember he changed it. I can't think of the name for it, but when he first named it, when he first sent it to me, the name was Upside Down Jesus. And what he was talking about was, it's not out here. No, it's not. You read all those names, and it will tell you who supports who, and it really puts you on one side of that football, political football.
In my perspective, Jesus being upside down is similar to the American flag being upside down.
Yes, correct.
It's distress.
I see it. I can visualize it. But what else is in there? Yeah. I had a friend in Los Angeles. He's no longer with us now, but his name was Laurie Sherman. He's one of the first individuals that taught me how to visualize and see the meaning of abstract. For a long time, I could never understand, and then he walked me through it. He said, each little old stroke, he said, it might be a person. And he said, if you look at it closely, he walked me through a Basquiat exhibit one time, and he could show me just a little individual stroke, and that was a person. Yeah, no. The one up on the screen now is Ed Clark. Just a marvelous artist. And Jemani introduced me to him, and I've had several pieces by Clark. It's just, Louisiana Red is the one up now. They were great works by great artists.
Here's one that's here. This one's here.
Yeah, this is pink, black, and blue, and it's in the exhibit. They're powerful. It's almost like a landscape, just a powerful piece of art that you'll appreciate if you stand in front of it and study it for a second. And it took me 2 or 3 visits, at least 2, but more than likely 3 visits to actually, each time I would go back, I would see something different within a piece of art.
It's really pretty.
What else is in here?
I didn't show them all the tapas. You wanted them to see any of the terrorists and freedom fighters? Or...
Okay, yeah, show. I'm going back to a tafa where it says terrorists and freedom fighters. And the same thing here. You can see different names. It's not in the exhibit, no, okay. But it'll tell you who they are, and it will tell you what side of the political football they're on. But he paints with a blade. Okay, yeah, if you got both corporate welfare.
And welfare.
Okay, this is just a small story by Tafa. When I say a storyteller, this is called corporate welfare. And what he's saying is the government gives the large corporations, wealthy individuals, feeds them the dollar bills and things like that. Then when you go to welfare mom, it's just a complete opposite. You see the different color hands reaching up and the 2 pennies that they do. And he did this back in 2003. It's a subject matter now, but it's being discussed daily. Who else is in here?
Let's see the rest of the tapas that you have.
And this is Prison Riot.
I think there's one too fast.
Okay, hold on. Tafa. And for the life of me, I can't pronounce his last name. But the thing about it, we're friends, so I see him all the time. but you just look up Tafa, and they know him in the art world. They know him on the internet as Tafa. You don't have to give him that. T-A-F-A? T-A-F-A. And this is called Prison Riot. And if you notice the circles at the top, that's scopes off of a rifle or something like that. The colors are different people as there's a melee going on in the prison yard. You don't have none of the, do we have the statement from Muhammad Ali about greatest of all time. Nope, we don't have that.
I didn't bring it. But I
Okay. Any more questions about what I collect or how I collect? So it's funny how I met Adrian here in this gallery here in Dallas. He introduced me, or he said, Arthur, one of the most unrecognized artists is Charles White. He led me to Charles White. Charles White led me to Charlotte Sherman in Los Angeles. And from there, he exposed me to different artists, and I just sort of just followed that trail wherever it went, wherever that led me to. And that's the reason like there's an artist out now, he has a piece out here, I can't, Urban Warrior, I think. Tyrone Jeter. It's black and white, tall black and white pieces with the torn paper. He was a art instructor at a HBCU. And so Tyrone has got to be 70 years old, but he's painting about the youth that he taught in college. And if you sit down and visit with him, he can give you great stories. And when you see that out there, you'll understand what he's talking about. Because today's youth are different than where we were. Just a little? Okay.
I have a question. Your story and your collection are fabulous. Has anybody ever thought about doing a documentary about what you collect and the stories behind it?
I hate to tell you, you're right. For years, I've been collecting for quite a while.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I did not see the importance of my collection. Mm-hmm. It's only been in the last 5 years I've been able to step back and say it is something. Mm-hmm. And I said, me sitting here speaking to people is not what I do. But I have thought about maybe doing a documentary, because eventually I'm going to start breaking the collection up.
Oh,
it was better 5 years ago, but as I move along, I'm sort of taking the top off of it.
Well, I think it would be a great investment in your legacy because you have a wonderful story of collecting, which also reflects the story of African American art.
You know what, and I really didn't give you a complete accurate story. It talks about the school system. I really started appreciating art when I was in the 6th grade in Tulsa, Oklahoma, going to the field exhibits to the different museums, and I was always wondering how they or why they created a sculpture like it does. So it all starts in education, and it shows how important education can be. I started doing the arts. I didn't really come back to it till I was in my 30s, but I was introduced to it when I was about 12 years old. And then when I was first in college, my roommate was an art major. So it's been a ever-going process.
Two questions. One, you just answered that you're from Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious the impact of the history of Tulsa, the Tulsa riots. Did they have an impact on your interest in this?
You know, it's very funny. Yes, it did, because I've talked to a couple of friends here in the last 10 years, and I guess my family was a little bit different. Talked to guys that said, hey, I had a friend call me about 5 years ago. He said, Arthur, did you know anything about the Tulsa riots when we were in school? I said, yeah. I said, I got the history from my father's father and his brother. He said, well, we weren't allowed to talk about it. I never understood that. Yeah. But so, yes, I did. Matter of fact, I had Curtis James, one of the first guys I started collecting. He did a Tulsa riot series of about 18 paintings for me. Yeah, until he tells a story. So it keeps coming back to storytelling.
Interesting.
And education, yes.
Interesting. And I'm going to spend most of next month in Arizona.
Uh-huh.
And I was just curious if you have any galleries that you would recommend in Phoenix or Flagstaff.
I don't. Mm-mm.
All right. Thank you.
So I love your collection.
Thank you.
Kind of sad to hear that they're going to be separated.
Yeah. I would love to take them with me, but but I can't.
Well, didn't you say that the importance of a curator? Don't you need to toss it to a curator?
Yeah.
How do you handle, how do you keep them in such pristine quality? They're big and, yeah.
Luck, pure D luck, because I didn't have no idea what I was doing. And
Yeah.
right now I'm doing condition reports and any preservation on them. And I've got 3 different conservators, and they're all telling me, say, man, it's amazing. Your work is in great condition. We had someone at the house yesterday, and she was doing work on Robert Colescott. It was a painting out of the series. What's the name of that series? What's the name of that series?
You would ask me.
But the name of the knowledge of the past is the key to the future. We still keep going back to history and teaching lessons. But this one particular painting is tobacco, the holdouts, and what he's talking about in the painting is no matter what the government, no matter what the medical profession tells us about the problems with smoking, it shows a couple just socially out in a nightclub. It shows what could be a lawyer or a doctor. It shows a politician, just a general worker in society. And he has them in a big painting. It's fairly large. And what it's saying is, no matter who you are, what you are caught by the evils of smoking. Because from each one of them, there comes a little smoke stream goes up, and in the middle of the painting, he's got a skeleton in death. And it shows how it leads to harming your body. But they tell a story. It's so important how these guys tell stories. That's the way they communicated with the world. Like Charles White, I think what he said was, I can't sing about it, I can paint about it, so that's what I'll do.
Right.
Yes,
And
ma'am?
one more question.
Sure.
So before you became an art collector, you were in the entertainment business?
Yes.
So what was, what was that?
I'll say, he'll probably not like it. I represented Tyler Perry. I was his touring manager for 20 years. So we went all over the United States for 20 plus years. Medea. Yeah. I'll never forget him telling the story. We had done our first show, and it was before Medea was born. It was, I Know I've Been Changed. And then he came, the next one was, I can't think of the title, I can remember it, but we were in New Orleans, where he was from, and I was standing out in the audience just watching the show. And I remember, because I'm a people watcher, I'm a people listener. And I remember a guy standing by the corner of the stage when Medea first came alive. He said, man, I got an aunt just like that. That's my aunt. So he had that ability to recognize what the public wanted. But, and he's an honorable guy, extremely honorable. During our years together, we never had a contract. Never had a contract. We talked about it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I see you've shown us some beautiful oils. I believe the navy painting in there might be watercolor, and you have a lot of mixed
Was it
media.
a Navy, a
Like an-
sailor sitting down?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna ask
My
you a
dad-
question. I want to see how you saw that. What did you see?
Well, my dad was enlisted and was an E1. I think he got as far as an E3. For me, I saw sadness and a little nostalgia, but I'm not sure if that was the point.
Go back and look at it again.
Okay.
A grown man sitting at a desk, a kindergarten type desk. He could fight for the country, but when he came back, they disrespected him.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a beautiful painting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but you also have a lot of mixed media, which has so much movement. And I'm wondering, have you evolved in what you look for? Is your collection more mixed media? I'm just curious what your whole
Yes
collection.
and no. It's not. It's mixed media because the art world has changed. The things that I really started collecting, the Aaron Douglases and Charles White. Wow. I can't. There's so many names out there. They were more portraits and things like that. They were one subject, but the world has sort of gone to more contemporary, abstract. So, but mixed media, that's the way the world's gone, so it led me that direction.
But is that your favorite style, or do you prefer?
I prefer the Aaron Douglases and the Charles Whites.
Okay.
Tell them about the gorilla. Thank you. The gorilla,
Don't worry about it.
Jacob Lawrence, you want to see Jacob Lawrence?
Yeah, Jacob Lawrence, like I talked about that, but that's Genesis series. They're always, he was the best storyteller of all of them. The John Brown series, the Genesis series. Ooh, and what's the migration, the Great Migration. He talked about how people moved from the south to the north. And it's like, I think it's about 22 pieces, and he narrates that story with a piece of art all along the way.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you for this exhibit. Two pieces out there caught my attention, and I'd like for you to kind of say what got your attention.
Okay.
One is the stevedore, and the other one is the reclining female.
Stevedore.
Richmond.
The stevedore, black individual, never being in power or leading anything, but he controlled a shipyard or something like that. But he orchestrated the movement of people, freight, and things like that. That was his power.
And the reclining female?
The reclining female, I'm trying to think of which one that is, because I'm thinking, but it's Elizabeth Catlett. I'm not thinking it's out there.
Oh, yeah, Stargazer.
Stargazer, okay, yeah. I interpret it as a lady living her life, but maybe say at bedtime at night, she's got to a point of the day where she's relaxing and she's just looking at the stars and dreaming and wondering what's going to come next.
Thank you.
You've mentioned the Great Migration, and I believe that is part of the Harlem Renaissance. Would
Yes,
you talk
it
a
is.
little bit about that and the artists that are represented from that period?
Ooh. That's Aaron Douglas. Oh, and I said I didn't have a focus, but that is my focus now as I'm winding down to go back and find the holes in my collection that the Harlem Renaissance is missing. So I'm trying to go back and get two pieces from each one of those artists during the Harlem Renaissance. And man, I'm going blank right now as to who those artists are. But I do know them, yeah, so. But now I'm gonna give you a book to read. There's a book that came out, I don't know, 5, 7, 8 years ago, The Warmth of Other Suns. Other suns, like a sun in the world. But it's Elizabeth, what is her name? I can't think of, but if you type in The Warmth of Other Suns, Pulitzer Prize type book. It tells you about the Great Migration. Not only did Jacob Lawrence do it, she does it in a book. So you can see the art if you read the book and then look at Jacob Lawrence's series of 22 paintings. They tie together so great. But no one has done a movie on the Warmth of Other Suns.
Isabel, something.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah. Great, great book. Go ahead.
Sir, is this part of the Great Migration series?
No.
This is part of Jacob Lawrence's.
No, this is the Genesis series by Jacob Lawrence. Yeah.
It's 8 pieces.
But normally Jacob Lawrence told his story in 20 plus pieces, but they were great narrators with the brush. Well, on the Genesis series, I remember what pulled me in, because when you see the title, you might be interested, you might not, but I go to the red. Go back. That particular piece, when you see the piece, we don't have it here, but when you see that red was so bold, it grabbed me, and I came in, I saw that piece, and I went back to the first, and I walked through each piece. But it's got to be something within the painting that catches your eye, and it'll keep bringing you back and back and back. Okay?
There's a sculpture or a carving of a boat that appears to have some connection to potentially Africa, Great Britain. Could you give us the background?
It's about Benin. It's about the Benin Kingdom. For years and decades, no one believed the Africans had any skills or talent. The British went to the island and they saw the works that these people were producing. They wanted to gain access, they wanted to gain control, access to their materials and the ability to create bronze. The boat symbolizes them taking the Oba, the king, off the island with 2 of his priests with him. To control the people, you had to kill the leaders of the people that occupied that, and they were taking the Oba and 2 of his priests off the island to kill them and come back and take over the island. And for 100 years, they weren't allowed to talk about it. This piece represents when they first started talking about it.
I see.
Yeah.
Roughly, what was the time frame it was created?
1700s.
That's what I
Yeah.
Thank you. Incredible piece.
It is. It is.
What's the story behind the big wooden sculpture, the face, the bust?
I really don't know it. I was in a gallery in Houston, Texas, and I saw it. And it just stuck with me. And she made me a deal, and it symbolizes something.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. Sometimes you just buy what you like, and I always suggest that that's what you have to do because you've got to live with it. You're going to see it every day.
I know great artists have to be inspired, and I grew up on a black writer, James Weldon Johnson.
Okay. No.
And then I moved to James Baldwin.
Okay. Baldwin, huh?
Yeah. Are there writing, or are there paintings or artists who draw from those two
Yes,
you're
they
aware
are.
of?
Yes, they are. Yeah. Jacob Lawrence, Charles White, Aaron Douglas.
Okay.
All of them.
Okay.
Yeah. That's where the Harlem Renaissance was born. Yes, they do draw from that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
When you were speaking to Elizabeth Catlett, did she tell you anything about her struggle for recognition as a woman artist and all of the different
No, I never had that
idioms?
conversation because she invited me down. I never made it down to talk to her in person. So no, but I've read about her. I've read about her and her relationship with Charles White and how I think they were not recognized earlier in their career because at one time the Communist Party tried to get inside of the black movement, and consequently those that signed up, they were rejected in this world. And that's part of their rejection is because of their association with the Communist Party.
Thank you.
Other than that, that's all I can tell you is my experiences, and it's been a lovely experience. I mean, but if you can, always get an artist statement. Always talk to an artist. And find out the backstory, and the pieces will become more and more important. Yes, ma'am.
Are you continuing to collect, or have you gotten to that point?
Not as fast as I was. Social Security will slow you down.
Okay, thank you.
You can't collect very much on a budget of Social Security.
That's true.
Yeah, but I am. I'm still trying. I'm going to complete, get as close as possible to my Harlem Renaissance collection. I'm probably halfway there now.
You have a very extensive collection. I was just curious, did you have them all on display in your home at some point?
No.
And how did it make you feel? I mean, it must feel amazing to be surrounded by all this beautiful art.
And
knowing all
the stories that amaze me.
Yeah.
I think the most I have up at any one time is like 120 pieces. Yeah, so I normally change them out. For a while I was changing them out twice a year. My mobility has gone downhill, so I can't do it, because I used to do it myself, and I can't do it myself anymore. And so it limits me.
Great.
Yeah.
And if I could say something which he forgets to say, is that he gets the pieces, but he has an eye to put the right frame that brings the beauty out of the piece with the framing and the piece. And I tell him that all the time, but he just thinks, oh, because I go in and I see the picture and I'm thinking, but then he'll put a frame to it and wow, it just does something to it. It magnifies it.
Every aspect of a piece of art, a curator, I can think of the people that have made a difference. Jamani Nanamdi, Charlotte Sherman, framer. I use a framer here, Main Street Framing. Randy, what's Randy's last name? Randy Murphy, great framer. If you look at the black and white, the big black and white piece out there, Randy framed that. It did not look like, it doesn't present, it presents a lot better than when I first saw it, because when I saw it, it was just laying on the floor. Yeah, but Randy's a great framer. Charlotte was a great curator. Jamani, a great curator. By me having 3-4 different people, each one had their favorites. Charlotte owned a gallery in Los Angeles that represented Charles White. Jamani introduced me to Mayhew, Colescott, Frank Boland, on and on. But all of those people have been very instrumental in building the art.
Do you live with it? I mean, you have all this artwork. I said, you have all this beautiful artwork out here that we enjoy. Do you live surrounded by your artwork?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think about 5. I might be missing 5-7 pieces off the walls now, but I have another set that's up at the house now.
And by these coming down off the wall, it gives him a chance to decide now what he wants to bring back and put on the wall, not the same pieces. So.
Well, it's a great story.
It keeps me busy taking it down and putting it up, taking it out.
Do home tour. We come to do.
On those sleepless nights, I used to get up, turn on all the lights in the house, and go back and revisit all the artists and all the pieces they've given me.
Tell me about your great book collection on all these artists.
Oh.
A great book collection.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each one of the artists that he gets pieces from. So.
I try to get any publication that they've had, and so I can read it and become more familiar, get all their backstories. Because some artists are, I'm not going to say they're bashful, they just don't talk about themselves. And if you know where they come from, you can understand the piece just a little bit better. Go ahead.
There used to be an artist who's now passed away in, I believe, Arkansas or Louisiana, who was called 5 Cent Jones.
Never heard
And
of
it
him.
was because he would sell his, 5 Cent Jones would sell his artwork for 5 cents. And he just used whatever he found, like a ballpoint pen and a Cheerios carton, or just, he didn't have canvases. He would, and you could give him a topic, like angel, and he would, after about a week, he would do you a painting or of, like I say, it would just be with Crayola, ballpoint pen on a
Gotcha.
various piece of paper. But he was called 5 Cent Jones.
Never heard that name before, but I know other artists that do the same thing.
He was one
Whatever
of
they
the-
collect, found on the streets, they would make art out of it.
Yeah, totally
They are the real
untrained.
creators.
Yeah, totally untrained, but
Yeah.
some of his stuff was remarkable.
Yeah. Well, when you can find a artist that's trained and has that natural creative tendency, if you can get the right mix and those natural creative instincts and the formal training, the work that they produce is amazing. Well, that's all I got. But go back and walk through the exhibit again and see what you see.